Change in plan a little bit. I'm going to read all of the purports, and whenever we get to the point of having comments and questions from you, this microphone will go in front of you. Otherwise, we will not have questions and comments, because what you have to say is important to me, it's important to the people in the Pujari room, and it's important to our guests who are listening in online. Is that okay? Okay, so we'll begin with text number 14. And we'll be reading translations only until we come back to text number 16. Text number 14. Uddhava said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears and the hairs on my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I with folded hands spoke like this. O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realm of the four principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But, O Great One, as far as I am concerned, I preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. So right now we're listening to what Uddhava is saying to Lord Krishna after Lord Krishna has completed the battle of Kurukshetra, and now he's come and he's sat down by himself on the banks of a river. And Uddhava has followed him there because Uddhava cannot tolerate not having the presence of the Lord. And there's another conversation going on too, and that is between Uddhava and Vidura. That's a conversation of this chapter. So Uddhava is speaking to Vidura. Text number 16. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires. That's one hard to understand thing about Krishna, is that he engages in work even though he has no work to do with the material energy. He doesn't have any engagement with the material energy. And also that you take birth even though you are unborn. He appears to have taken birth from a mother, from two mothers actually, both Mother Devaki and Mother Yashoda. That you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are I beg your pardon, we're on 16, good. We're on 16, this is the one we'll come back to. That you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, and that fort I presume is Dwarka, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Although you are the controller of invincible time. And finally, the other seeming contradiction, paradox, is that you enjoy householder life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. Text 17. O my Lord, your eternal self is never divided by the influence of time, and there is no limitation to your perfect knowledge. Thus you were sufficiently able to consult with yourself, yet you called upon me, Uddhava, for consultation as if bewildered, although you are never bewildered, and this act of yours bewilders me. My Lord, this is text 18, my Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Brahmaji. When I thus express my heartfelt desires unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about his transcendental situation. I have studied the path of understanding self-knowledge from my spiritual master, the Personality of Godhead. This is Uddhava's spiritual master, Krishna. And thus, after circumambulating him, I have come to this place very much aggrieved due to separation. Text number 21. My dear Vidura, Now we'll go back to the conversation between Uddhava and Vidura. My dear Vidura, now I am mad for want of the pleasure of seeing him. And just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badarikashram in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him. So Krishna told Uddhava, go to the Himalayas, go to Badarikashram. Text number 22, and this is the last one. There in Badarikashram, the personality of Godhead and his incarnation as the sages Nara and Narayan has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities. Om Jnana Timidandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So we're going back to 16 now, text number 16. Is that up on the screen? Text 16? Yes?
He's working on it right now.
Okay, all right, good.
It is up now.
Word for word transliterations, please. Karmani, Anihasya, Bhavo, Bhavasya, Te, Durgasrayo, Tari, Bayat, Palayanam, Kalatmano, Yat, Pramada, Yutashrama, Swatman, Rate, Kidyati, Dir, Vidam, Iha. Now we'll read together as poetry, please. Together. Karmanyani hasya bhavo bhavasyate. Okay, so we won't read it together. Okay, and that's not the melody. Karmanya tasya bhavo bhavasyate. Durgashrayo tari bayat palayanam. Kalatmano yat pramada yutashrama. Swatmam rate kidyati dir vidam miha. Once more. Karmanyani hasya bhavo bhavasyate. Durgashrayo tari bhayat palayanam. Kalatmano yat pramada yutashrama. Svatman rate kidyati dir vidam miha. Now to our audience who is listening in, I'm going to ask others who are in the room to please chant this, and we'll repeat, even though you're not going to be able to hear them directly. So would you begin? Now I'm going to ask one of the ladies now to please chant, as you wish. All right, we'll stop right now with repeating the shloka, and we'll go directly to the word-for-word translations. Karmani, that should be karmani, activities. Antas anihasya, of one who has no desire. Bhava, birth. Abhavasya, of one who is never born. Te, your. Durga ashraya, taking shelter of the fort. Ata, thereafter. Aribhayat, out of fear of the enemies. Palayanam, flee. That's F-L-E-E, not the insect. Kala atmana, of he who is the controller of eternal time. Yet, that. Pramada ayuta, in the association of women. Ashrama, household life. Swa-atmanam, I beg your pardon. Swa-atman, in your own self. Rate, one who enjoys. Kidyati, is disturbed. Di, intelligence. Vidam, of the learned. Iha, in this world. Okay, thank you very much. Translation once again. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires, that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy, and take shelter in a fort, although you are controller of invincible time, and lastly, that you enjoy householder lives surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. So I would like for you to read, but since we do not have a functioning microphone, I'm going to just read this myself. Can you tolerate that? Either that, or we can pass this microphone around, which is better.
I think it might be tough to pass the microphone, so if you just read, I think it's okay.
Okay. All right, so at least in your mind, read along with me, please. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regard to transcendental knowledge of the Lord, nor is it possible to acquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them, because devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This gives them all transcendental bliss. But some of the pastimes of the Lord appear contradictory. Okay, now this is going to be our major theme today. The activities performed by the Lord which appear to be contradictory. And let's see, so we can call them paradox. This gives them all transcendental bliss, but some of the pastimes appear contradictory. All right, so Uddhava asked the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, and it is actually so, because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seems contradictory then to hear that the Lord personally lifts the Govardhan Hill for the protection of his unalloyed devotees. The Lord is the supreme Brahman, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead appearing like a man. But we might add this if we have an argument with some people who believe that God has no form, and that when he appears in the material world, he takes on a material body. But we see here that that is not true. There is no difference between the personality of Godhead and the impersonal Brahman. How then can the Lord have so many things to do, materially or spiritually, If the Lord is ever unborn, how then is he born as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki? He is fearful even to Kala, the supreme fear, and yet the Lord is afraid of fighting Jarasandha and takes shelter in a fort. How can one who is full in himself take pleasure in the association of many women? How can he take wives and, just like a householder, take pleasure in the association of family members, children, relatives, and parents? All these apparently contradictory happenings bewilder even the greatest learned scholars, who, thus bewildered, cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activities are only imitations. The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. This cannot be understood by the mundane speculators. For the mundane speculators, there is certainly a kind of bewilderment, but for the transcendental devotees, there is nothing astonishing in this. The Brahman conception of the absolute truth is certainly the negation of all mundane activities. But the Parabrahman conception is full with transcendental activities. One who knows the distinctions between the conception of Brahman and the conception of the Supreme Brahman is certainly the real transcendentalist. There is no bewilderment for such transcendentalists. The Lord himself also declares in Bhagavad Gita 10:2, even the great sages and demigods can hardly know anything about my activities and transcendental potencies. The right explanation of the Lord's activities is given by Grandfather Bhishma. This is coming from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 16, as follows. Na yasyak har hachit rajan puman veda viditsitam Yadvigya saya yukta muyanti kavayo pihi. And there is no translation to that shloka. So once again, Amagyana timirandasya gyananjana salakaya chakshurun militam jaina tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master has kindly come and opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Contradictory activities. So the first one that was mentioned in the shloka is that he engages in fruitive work even though he's free from all desires. Is there a text in which Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita? Drishtaprabhu. Yes. Well, he engages in work. He states that in the Bhagavad Gita. Can you pull up 324, Bhagavad Gita?
She said, although I have no work to perform, I still do my duty.
Okay. Okay, so that translation, I'll read it now so that everyone who is out there in cyber world can hear as well. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would therefore destroy the peace of all living beings. I'll read part of the purport to that shloka by Srila Prabhupada. When Lord Krishna descends, naturally he deals with such rules and regulations in order to maintain the prestige and the necessity of such important performances. The Lord is the Father of all living entities, and if the living entities are misguided, indirectly the responsibility goes to the Lord. Therefore, whenever there is general disregard of regulative principles, the Lord himself descends and corrects society. Now, there's another text in which he states the importance of work. Just a doom, could you recall that one? That's chapter 4, text number 14, I believe. I can tell you what the... I'm sorry? Okay, that's the one I'm thinking about too. Prabhupada, Priya, Devi. Okay. So bring that up. Is that up on the screen already? So what we're talking about, we're trying to get up on the screen here, is a text in which Krishna says something about work.
3:9.
No, it should be four. Shouldn't it? Yagartat. No, it is 3:9. 3.9. Okay. Yagyatat karmano yantra loko yam kamabandana tat artam karma kuntiya mukta sangha samatsara. And bring up the translation, please. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So Krishna is saying that we must perform our prescribed duties. Some might ask the question, then why is it that Srila Prabhupada took all these young people early on and had them doing things that they never considered doing before, were not prepared for, but which they took up simply because he asked them to? Those were their prescribed duties at that time. Because who prescribed them? Their spiritual master. Okay. Otherwise, we might say, if we happen to be living in a temple community like this, some people might ask, well, why am I being asked to do this or do that service when that's not my propensity? That's not what I'm prepared to do. And so that has been recognized by the leaders of this community, that we should engage devotees in the service which is more like their propensity. For example, if somebody is interested in teaching, as much as possible, we should give them the opportunity to teach. If they're good teachers, but they also have experience in information technology, IT, then perhaps they should perform their work as IT people, but at the same time perform other duties that are necessary to keep a temple community running properly. Can you think of any other times in which Krishna has performed activities that seem to be contradictory to him? I'll have to repeat what you say. Yes, please, Mr. Kumar. All right, just to do is give an example of when Krishna opens his mouth after he's been accused of eating dirt or clay, and Mother Yashoda brings him in and says, "All right, Krishna, have you been?" And she says, "No, Mother, I've not been eating dirt." And so she says, "Open your mouth and let me see." And she looks in and she sees the entire universe within the mouth of her baby son. So even though he's playing the role of an infant, or toddler, still he's showing his own mother something that is unordinary, I mean, no mother looks into the mouth of her toddler child and sees the entire universe in there. So even though it appears contradictory to his role as a baby for him to do that, still he does that sometimes. Sometimes in bewilderment of his mother, and coming for the benefit of us who coming later on. All right, anybody else think of something Krishna does that seems contradictory?
He says he's equal to everyone, yet he's showing so much love and care to his devotees.
All right, for those of you listening in online, the example was given that Krishna states that he's equal to everyone. He's neither the friend nor the enemy of anyone, and yet he shows particular care for his devotees, and he offers words to his devotees that he would not offer. An example of that might be Vidura. Even though Krishna, he says that he's equal to everyone, still, when he comes back to Hastinapura to try to negotiate some settlement to keep the fratricidal war of Kurukshetra from happening, he is greeted by Duryodhana, who considers himself to be the king, along with his father, who is blind. But Krishna says, no, I will not accept your invitation to come to your palace to stay while I'm here. So he went to the home of Vidura. And Vidura, of course, was the brother of Dhritarashtra and the uncle of Duryodhana. But still, and he was not eligible for taking a royal position in the government, because he was born of a maidservant. So Krishna there, then, even though he says he's equal to all, he shows that he shows special favor to his devotees. What's another contradiction? Yes, ma'am.
Even though he's the true controller and is unconquerable, he's controlled and conquered by the love of his devotees.
Although he's the controller and the conqueror of everything, he is conquered by the love of his devotees. All
right, that's a beautiful example. Even though Krishna is the controller of everything and the creator of everything, it's his energy, still he is conquered by the love of his devotee. Who in particular? Srimati Radharani. Yes, that's correct. Okay. Let's take an example of Krishna. He's been accused here of being afraid of Jarasandha, but still he has been. How is that contradictory? Can he actually be afraid of Jarasandha? Why? I have a no here. Yes, why?
Because he's the most powerful.
He's the most powerful. Okay. So, Jarasandha brought his army with him, 17 times? And then on the 18th time, something else happened. But every time he brought his armies there to, I think Krishna was at that time in Mathura. He had not yet gone to Dwaraka. So many times Jarasandha brought his army, and each time Krishna and Balaram killed, I presume with his army also there, but he could have done it by himself. He killed all of the members of Jarasandha's army 17 times. And then on the 18th time, something else happened. Anyhow, Jarasandha was a very powerful person. And I don't know, you remember the story that Jarasandha was born from two different queens. A king had asked a Brahmin to perform a sacrifice to give him a son. He had two queens, and he was thinking to give the nectar that came from the sacrifice to his principal queen. But his other queen also wanted to have a child. So when the sacrifice was completed, the king gave the nectar, half of it to one queen, half of it to the other queen. And they both became pregnant with a child. And when they gave birth to the same entity, but that entity was in two different parts. And the two parts were entirely symmetrical. So they thought, this is of no use. So they took the bodies of those children and tossed them out into the forest. And a witch by the name of Jara came along. And through her mystic power, she joined the two parts of the body together. And this formed the personality known as Jarasandha. So you would think that a person who took such an inauspicious birth would not be very powerful, but he was. He was extremely powerful. And yet Krishna acted as though he were afraid of Jarasandha when he created the fort that is known as Dwarka, which extended out into the ocean. And you could practically call that like a peninsula, although it might have been surrounded on all sides by water. And there could have been a bridge going from the mainland over there. But anyhow, in one night, Krishna transferred all of his relatives and friends living in Mathura to Dwarka. They went to sleep in Mathura, but they woke up in Dwarka. So now, was Krishna afraid of Jarasandha? Could he have performed such a feat, or empowered a demigod to create the entire city of Dwarka because he was afraid of Jarasandha? Well, it was said that he wanted to take his friends and relatives away from Mathura so that they wouldn't have to be bothered by the constant attacks of Jarasandha. So I think then Jarasandha eventually attacked the city of Dwarka. But then Jarasandha was conquered in a fight. Somebody remember how that fight occurred? Dina Tarini Devi. Do you remember that?
I don't remember how the fight started, but I remember how
All right, just to do. Do you recall?
Krishna and Bhima and Arjuna disguised themselves as brahmanas, and they went into the castle of Jarasandha. And so whenever a brahmana asked something, Jarasandha was known to be very pious and favorable. So anything a brahmana would ask him, he'd give them. So Bhima, or one of them asks Jarasandha.
All right, now hold on just a moment. Let me bring the audience out there up to date. Justadumna Prabhu is saying that they realized, and this occurred right before Yudhishthira was to perform a Rajasuya sacrifice. He had to get the entire cooperation of all the kings in the area, but Jarasandha was too powerful. So they decided what to do about that, and Justadumna Prabhu is saying that they decided that they would that Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima would dress as brahmanas, because Jarasandha was known to be very charitable toward brahmanas. So you see, even the demonic personalities, they had some pious side to them. Of course, we might say that they were motivated because they knew that if they were pious to the brahmanas, that would give them more prestige and more power. Whereas if they treated badly the brahmanas, then their fame would be obliterated. They would be defeated. So then Arjuna, Krishna, and Bhima went dressed as Brahmins, and they asked Jarasandha to fight. Once he accepted them as Brahmanas, he didn't realize what their real identity was. But when they asked him to fight, Krishna told him what their identity was, and he said, "We want to fight with you. I am Krishna. Here's Bhima. Here is Arjuna. Which one would you like to fight with?" And so Jarasandha made the decision that, let's see, I think
Arjuna was too young.
Arjuna was too young.
Krishna's already ran away from him.
Krishna was a scaredy cat. He already ran away from the battlefield. And
Bhima we can fight.
Bhima. So I will fight with Bhima. And of course, we know Bhima to be Herculean in strength and powerful, practically undefeatable with his use of the club. So he agreed, and they began to fight, and they fought for quite some time, and neither one was getting the upper hand. And so Krishna gave a little hint to Bhima. And Bhima, taking the hint from Krishna that about how this personality came to be, Jarasandha came to be, he actually split him in part and made two parts to his body and killed him in that way. So was was Krishna afraid of Jarasandha? We could go back to what Hiranyakashipu said to his son. It says, "Where do you get your powers?" And what does his son reply?
Same place that you do, Dad.
From the same place you get your powers, my father. And so, if Krishna is the source of all power, then it's nothing unusual that a personality like Jarasandha would be so powerful. And Bhima saying also, being the son of the wind god, Vayu, he was also extremely powerful and indefatigable. What does that mean? Mm-hmm.
Unable to be defeated.
He doesn't get tired.
Oh, now that's the correct one. Yeah, he was practically undefeatable, but he was also indefatigable. Means that he didn't tire. You remember when he and his brothers and then their mother left the house of wax, or the house of what was it called? Lac, the house of Lac. And they escaped through a tunnel to the river, and then they crossed the river, and then on the other side, Bhima took all of his brothers, his four brothers, and took his mother, and they held on to different parts of his body. And he ran through the forest at an amazing speed. It said it was, a matter of fact, it was so fast that the turbulence created by the motion of his thighs running knocked down trees all around. So this is an example. If Krishna can give that kind of power to an individual, why should he fear anybody? And then, of course, it's Hiranyakashipu, and what was his special forte or his special reputation? What was he able to do? All right, I'll give you a hint. Demigods. What about the demigods? What was his relationship with the demigods? Just by moving his eyebrows. Thank you, Prabhupada Priya. Just by moving his eyebrows. I don't know whether you know, in Greek literature there was the Lord of the gods. And simply by the motion of his eyebrows, everyone trembled. All the other gods trembled. So this is Greek mythology, and then there was Roman mythology which followed up and had a similar personality. Zeus was the Greek. So anyhow, Krishna can empower anyone to do anything, and anyone who takes a material body can be swept away by one insignificant, tiny virus. So this, under the control of Krishna, Krishna's material energy, Mahamaya, can establish the rewards and punishments for all of us. And what are those rewards and punishments? The level of them. What are they dependent on? Two things. One is the reactions to the past, right? Karma. So if they had the karma for becoming a very powerful personality like Hiranyaksha, then they can, they can even lift this planet and toss it into the Garbha ocean. They are that powerful. And where does that strength come from? Prahlad says, Father, my power comes from the same source as your power. So the devotees then recognize where their power is coming from and their skills. If you have a particular talent, if you're able to memorize shlokas very easily, if you're able to chant a very nice bhajan or kirtan in the temple room, as such as we heard today for Prabhupada's puja, and then for the time at the chanting afterward for their lordships. Thank you for that, Carmen. That was very nice. By the way, your pitch is really good, and the quality of your voice is good. So do it again sometime. So all of these abilities come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who was playing mridanga this morning? Dayalu. Okay. All right. So, I mean, we can be proud of those devotional qualities, traits, the power that we have. If we're a good book distributor, we can become very elated thinking that, I'm special. But then Krishna has a way of toning that down a little bit, doesn't he? So everything is coming from Krishna, but still Krishna, he occasionally will be what appears to be inconsistent in his behavior. Sometimes he may appear to be afraid, other times, and even when he's dealing with his other devotees, like in Dwarka, whenever there would be a problem, instead of trying to figure out the problem, who did he call for? Uddhava. Okay, so Uddhava is a personality that we've just encountered in this chapter here, talking to Vidura. And Vidura was also very dear to Krishna, but he's taking knowledge, he's taking solace, he's taking this kind of thing from whom? Vidura, Uddhava. I'm sorry, Vidura is taking that now from Uddhava. In other words, he's allowed, just like Lord Chaitanya. Sometimes he empowers one of his devotees to instruct him, and an example of that was who did Lord Chaitanya get to instruct him?
I have an idea. It might not be right, but Lord Nityananda tells him that your incarnation isn't meant for killing the demons, as the Jagai Madai pastime.
So he took counsel from his brother. All right.
Madhavendra Puri, his spiritual master?
Madhavendra Puri.
Isn't that his
I'll tell you the person that I'm thinking about right now is who is it, Prabhupada Priya? Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy. Lord Chaitanya began asking him different questions for Ramananda Roy to answer, and Ramananda he concedes in the very beginning that anything that I can say is coming from you. But he's also saying it for the benefit of all of us who come later. We're out of time now. Does anybody have one point that you would like to bring up or a question that you would like to ask right now? We need a microphone.
She said she'll say it's short, and then you can just repeat it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to let Nandbraj Prabhu listen and then tell me. Okay, go ahead.
Why would Krishna empower demons?
Why would Krishna empower demons? Oh, that's a really good point, especially considering that we've just come out of one of the most disastrous world wars in our history, 2 world wars, as a matter of fact. In World War II, there were a number of personalities who were empowered by Krishna, and they were very demoniac. Who was one that you can think of?
Adolf.
Hitler, Adolf Hitler.
The answer.
Who else?
Hitler.
Hitler. We already got him. Who else?
Stalin. Stalin, that's right.
Joseph Stalin. And what about in Italy? Mussolini. Okay. So, Prabhupada Priya Devi, these are three examples that are coming from the past. So, and the question is asked: how can Krishna allow the destruction of so many other people? Because there were millions and millions and millions of people who were killed during that war, not only in other countries but also in Germany itself. So many people were killed. And somebody might ask the question, then why, if God is in control of everything, then why does he permit that to happen? And now what Mother Prabhupada Priya has brought up is why does Krishna empower the demons to have such power to cause distress to other seemingly innocent people? So a couple of points here. He empowers the demons because they deserve it. They deserve the power. Even though Krishna knows what they're going to do with the power, he empowers them to cause havoc throughout the world. Well, you can say, why does he do that and allow all these innocent people to suffer? All right, anybody who takes birth in this material world, unless he's a pure devotee of the Lord coming for the particular purpose of helping to alleviate suffering, that person is not innocent. Anyone who takes a material body in this world is not innocent. That means that we have committed activities in the past which has given us karma that have brought us to the point that we're at now. And so Krishna, we're going to have to suffer in this world for what we have done wrong in previous lifetimes and done in this lifetime. And so Krishna sometimes empowers living entities to give that kind of suffering to those who deserve it. Now, it was a different situation with the war of the Battle of Kurukshetra. Krishna also empowered certain personalities like Duryodhana to be able to cause difficulty for many people throughout the world. But a lot of those were Krishna's relatives and such that he brought from the heavenly kingdom. Are we ready to go? All right, so we'll stop right now. Thank you very much, everyone. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Radha Kalachan Jidam ki jai. Gaura Premananda. No problem. Thank you all very much for joining us, all of you who are traveling and have stopped in here to the Dallas community. We're very happy to have you here. You don't know how happy your presence makes us here. Hare Krishna.